Hi, I am breaking down Kingdom Hearts, game by game. Technically story by story because I'm having to do the Birth by Sleep stories all in three separate videos because they are, despite being a PSP game, expansive enough to warrant this, so yeah. Uh, to be honest, I was originally going to start off with Chain of Memories because everybody and their mom has basically heard the story of Kingdom Hearts 1. It is the most basic and the most famous of all the Kingdom Hearts games. But that's not the main point of what I'm wanting to get behind for these videos. Unlike, say, my Persona 5 Retold series, the unofficial audiobook, that is going to be coming out soon. I'm just having to do an actual outro for that video series, which is unique music. I'm actually just doing this explaining the series. This is explaining the story, explaining little bits of information, explaining a lot behind what has gone into these games, what has gone into the stories, yada yada. Everybody and their mom knows that this game started off as an elevator pitch. Literally, like the few minutes that happened in the elevator. In fact, that's kind of the reason why we have elevator pitches now, because that's how a lot of the really great games we have started to appear. But here's the other flip side that's not exactly the best. Tetsu Nomura isn't the best game director. This might sound weird, but this dude has such a need to tell you that he's directed a few of the Final Fantasy games. In fact, I can't remember a Kingdom Hearts game aside from Kingdom Hearts 3 where there were no Final Fantasy characters. And even then, we still got a Cloud reference. In Remind, we still got the Restoration Committee. So, no, there is no true Kingdom Hearts game that does not feature Square Enix characters. And don't get me wrong, I love them. They add to the story. Cloud and Sephiroth really do add something to the duality because Cloud is trying to ignore and get rid of his own darkness, which has caused it to go into Sephiroth, empowering him. It's a story about balance and balancing your own life. But again, this series is about balance, but the only character to truly show balance is Sora, and that is the main theme across everything. But again, that isn't clear cut. Sorry if that was a spike in audio, but seriously, this series has an issue with making the story clear cut, easy to follow, everything under the sun. This is the reason why I say Tetsu Nomura isn't the best game director. Because he does not allow story changes that aren't his own. You want to know why? Because apparently this man has done everything for the story, and the story writers are basically getting a free paycheck at this point. What do I mean by this? What I mean by this is that aside from the script writers and the actors, everything else is possibly just Tetsu Nomura coded in every single way. The gameplay, that is actually fine. I don't think Tetsu Nomura has done too much there. Don't get me wrong, there are lore implications in the gameplay, which is frustrating, but it also means that gameplay is canon, which, wow, okay. But then you've also got other things. And what do I mean by other things? Other things. Such as some weird design changes from between games, the fact that a lot of the story is nonsensical, even with prior context or enough context that the FNAF series looks like a children's coloring book. Yeah, I swear I wish I was joking. But at the end of the day, Kingdom Hearts is a series near and dear to my heart because I quite literally grew up with these games. That doesn't mean that I'm going to say they're perfect. Hell, I hate the way Tetsuya Nomura's done everything. Again, it is basically a free paycheck for the writer's room because nobody else seems to really do much. It's all Tetsuya Nomura. Because we're supposed to take his word for everything in the Ultimanias and any single piece of like interview or anything like that. That's what we got. King Mickey is the mysterious voice at the start of the game, which could be hinted at the end. Don't get me wrong, that works, but there are two very distinct voices. The voice that talks to Sora and the voice that talks to Riku. I'll get into that later during my theories and actual discussion part. Right now, it is legitimately just a recap of the main story. So we start off with. Oh god, okay. So, ignoring the opening cutscene because that is supposed to tell us what the plot for the game is. Oh dear lord, what is this? Now, you might be a bit confused. Hold on, Sora doesn't know anything about the other worlds. Presumably, he's never been to any. And he's only heard about them. How is he connected to the other princesses? Simple. No idea. Literally. There is no reason for this. Yeah, so Sora's just apparently got prophetic powers due to this entire scene, so that's fun. But it also gives us a pretty clear indication that something's a little bit off with Sora. He's not exactly like the other kids on the island. In fact, we even get to see this later on, but we'll get to that. So, tutorial, combat, whatever you want to call it, here we go. So, first and foremost, the dialogue choices, all three of those answers do relate to Sora. I mean, for all three of them. Getting old, being indecisive, or whatever the third one was. Being forgotten. That's the one, I think. I think? Was it being forgotten? Whatever the third option was, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because of the fact that, yeah, all three of those are pretty common fare for anybody. But for Sora, it would probably, like, being different. That's the third one. That's the goddamn third one. Being different, being indecisive, and growing old. I think Sora would possibly say being different because he's already pretty different, so that's just kind of obvious to him. So being indecisive or getting old would probably be his two options. Sophie asks about what's most important to Sora, being number one, prized possessions, or friendship. If you selected anything other than friendship, you are fundamentally mistaking a key part of Sora's personality. And then Waka asks, hey, what do you want out of life? To be strong, to see rare sights, and another one that's basically to see rare sights, but broaden my horizons. That's the one. So there is an actual difference there. To see rare sights is actually to see very rare and out of the way locations, sites, whatever you want to call them. This actually tracks. It's to see places that not many other people would be able to see, i.e., the secret place on even on Destiny Islands. To broaden my horizons is to see a lot of different places. They can be well traveled, they can be out of the way locations. It's just a general, I want to see what's out there. Now, to be strong is very against what Sora is. Don't get me wrong, he wants to get better, but it comes from like a place of competition, a bit more fun-loving. It isn't what's core to Sora's personality. That is a very Riku answer. I think one of the other two works best for Sora's personality, and I think it would because of him literally saying, I want to see any world that's out there. Literally, in Destiny Island's first ever scene, like, I want to see what's out there. What's out there everywhere. I think it's to broaden his horizons. Meaning, yes, he's afraid of being indecisive. His most treasured possession is friendships, and he wants to broaden his horizons. Those are the three main things that are core to Sora's personality. A lot of people forget this. In fact, I sometimes do. I sometimes forget there is supposed to be a canon answer to this. But hold on, doesn't this scene come after something else? I was trying to ignore this because it just fundamentally does not work. Because canonically, Sora changes around his keychain, but all of the pre-rendered cutscenes choose Kingdom Key. Pre-rendered cutscenes aren't always supposed to be 100% canon to what actually happened. You're telling me Sora never used Oathkeeper or Oblivion, or never changed out the secondary Keyblade on Valor form. If that's what we're going off of, then that also means Wisdom form, Limit form, Master form, hell, Final and Anti-form aren't canon to Kingdom Hearts 2. There's got to be a little bit of leeway for this. And here's where I'm needing to explain the other two personalities. Starting off with Riku, because he is a... Ooh. So one of the few optional dialogues on Destiny Islands is Tidus actually asking, hey, are you and Riku actually friends? Like, it is very just bluntly stated, how are you two friends? Because they aren't. Or at least Sora believes Riku to be a friend, but Riku doesn't see himself as Sora's friend. You know the whole friendly rivals thing, but they never really call each other friends? That's Riku's opinion on his and Sora's relationship for Kingdom Hearts 1. At least the Destiny Islands portion. For Sora, he thinks they're friendly rivals, but they are, first and fundamentally, friends. Hell, that's the entire reason why they're going on the trip together. Riku is the main driving force of Kingdom Hearts 1's issues, plot, everything under the sun. Riku is the reason why most of the game even happens, which is terrifying to think about, because that means everything here happens because of Riku. A lot of it's good, but there is so much bad to it that it is impressive that he even gets a redemption arc. Again, this is where Tetsu Nomura comes in. Riku is a complicated character, not because he was actually written to be complicated, but because we have to make him a complicated character for his story to work. Think of it like during The Last Olympian and Percy Jackson. A few spoilers here if you haven't seen the series, but who really cares? It's a story series that came out before I was even goddamn born. So, here we go. The Last Olympian, multiple characters die. That's just a fact. They were in the middle of a war. There are two characters that are redeemed in their death by two other characters, despite other characters legitimately not even considering them to be redeemed. Percy never actually deems them redeemed either, so that's just a fun little nod. The two are Selena Beauregard and Lucas Callistein. Callistein? Whatever his last name is. Luke and Selena both do horrendous shit. Despite of the fact that everybody would have been welcoming and, like saying, oh no, it's fine. You didn't tell them too much, you stopped when this war happened, you're on our side. You could probably hand them false information now. Selena was still a goddamn spy. Even after Charlie's death. You know, her boyfriend. It is directly stated that she did this to save her own skin and save Charlie's, despite that not being a possibility. She legitimately doomed every other demigod at Camp Half-Blood to save her own ass and her boyfriend's. Selena isn't a true hero. She's out of her selfish means. But because of the fact that she died to bring the Ares cabin in to help save them from a Draken that can only be killed by a child of Ares, she gets redeemed in the eyes of Clarice, who may or may not have had a crush on her, it's vague. And yeah, okay, I guess that makes up for like a couple instances, but not fully redeems her. In fact, in the sequel series, Drew, who's the new leader of the cabin's like, hey, yeah, Selena was a goddamn traitor. I'm not forgetting that. She betrayed her own siblings for love. That's the reason why we do that broken heart test. So that way we know if you're a true, Aphrodite camper or not. It's like a whole entire thing. It's a philosophy which gets lampshaded and thrown out the window the second Piper comes in, but Piper's a character for another video. And then the second one is Lucas Calistine. Again, this dude willingly did so much crap. Please remember, even if you're wanting him to be at about maybe 18 when all of this crap first started, that's book 1. Hell, he's probably 19 at the end of book 1. He's in his 20s by the end of The Last Olympian when he willingly gives himself up to host Kronos. He willingly does this. And, well, yes, you can make the argument, oh, but his brain wasn't fully developed. Hello to the life of a demigod. We've got enough trauma and bullshit that we're basically full-grown adults. In fact, Percy doesn't change. So, as much as I don't like the sequel trilogy to the that follows Percy before his college career, it does have one really important part. When they're reverted back to kids, Grover is back into his satyr instincts, headbutting everything in sight, and Annabeth is a little brat. She doesn't change a whole lot, she just gets stupider. Percy, on the other hand, doesn't change. He's already pretty grown up. He's still about the mentality and mannerisms of a teenager. It actually fits for Percy's character because, unlike Harry and everybody else in Harry Potter who all act like adults or how adults think teenagers act, Percy actually still acts like how he normally does, which leads to the fact that part of his personality is a bit of a mask to deal with all the trauma in his life, but also shows, hey, yeah, demigods mature faster than normal humans. So Lucas literally did it for his own selfish means, yet he is redeemed in the eyes of Annabeth. Nobody else agrees with her. Even Hermes doesn't say he died a hero. Only Annabeth does. Hermes knows that Luke did the worst crap imaginable, but he says you can't turn your back on family. And he tries to reach out, too little too late in Luke's eyes, but it was definitely more than any other god was doing, except maybe Poseidon. So, with all of that in mind, Riku is 15 here. He is, without a doubt, the closest thing to an actual adult character other than the actual legitimate adults that come around later. He is, without a doubt, supposed to be the leader, the most responsible of the group. That's the reason why I went off the tangent, because if he matched up to anybody in Percy Jackson, He would be Luke. Not anybody else. Luke. This actually raises an uncomfortable question. Since at what part is a person unredeemable, and what age do they have to be for their actions to not have proper consequences? I might be a little bit biased here, but you're supposed to have full control over your actions by the time you're 15. Like, you understand the terms and conditions for what you're signing. You can get a driver's license at this age, especially around the 2002 era. This means he should have had a bit more thought put into his actions later on. But Riku is irresponsible. He isn't a very responsible character, full stop. In fact, Riku's a bit of a dick. Just straight up. He's the character that's supposed to be like the cool, edgy hero. If Sora is Sonic, Riku is Shadow the goddamn Hedgehog. Edgy the Hedgy Mark II, if you will. They even appeared around the same time. But yeah, no, these two characters do line up a bit. Except where Shadow had a realization due to a few conversations and helped defeat the final boss. We'll get to Riku's full story later. But just know, Riku isn't a very likable person. He's the leader because he's the oldest, but he isn't the most likable. Especially during Kingdom Hearts 1. A few people liked him, do not get me wrong. There's like a cool thing about him. He was made to be cool. He was made to be a main character of his own game. But he's not. He's not the main character, he's the villain. Then we've got Kairi, the girl from the stars. Her personality is actually kind of hidden behind optional dialogue. You'll see a lot of people say, oh, Kairi has no personality, or oh, Kairi is literally a nothing character and is only served to be rescued later games. In later games, yes, she is diluted heavily. You could call her the whitewashed Kairi, if you will. Because the true Kairi, the Kairi that is in Kingdom Hearts 1, is a lot different from the Kairi in Kingdom Hearts 2. And it also kind of proves that Sora's kind of responsible for her personality. Because when she interacts with Sora, she is actually a good and well-written character. Don't get me wrong, Tetsu Nomura definitely screwed a lot of story beats and a lot of characters over in the sequels. So I'm going to chalk this up to whatever writer was most heavily going for Kairi's story. Because holy crap is it good. Kairi's story starts in flashbacks. Woo, and what we learn later on. Essentially, she washed up on the shores of Destiny Islands, or the mainland, and was taken in, hosted, whatever you want to call it, and grew up alongside Sora and Riku when they were all about 4, with Riku being about 5 or 6. Going forward from that, they keep going. They grow up together, they play together, they are friends for a long time. In fact, Riku might have been their babysitter for a time. Seriously, the quiet kid is somehow the most responsible one. However, I'm not getting into Birth by Sleep. I'm not getting into what that game does. That is for when I cover that story, because it screws with canon a little bit. Okay? Good. Kairi's personality is that she's fun. She's a very kind and caring person. And she's also a little bit of a jokester. She's a bit playful. She's got a personality. She is, for lack of a better term, she compliments Sora like how Amy is supposed to compliment Sonic. or how a certain female character is supposed to complement the male characters. Trying to equate it to something else. Oh, that's probably a good one. No, that doesn't work. Oh, okay. It's sort of how like Ryuji and An complement each other because they've known each other for a very long time. They can bicker a bit, but at the end of the day, they're basically childhood friends. They're basically brother and sister at times. But here's the thing. Sora and Kairi actually feel like friends. They have little in-jokes. They like talk to each other a bit. Kairi's literally like, "Sora, you lazy bum," and Sora just responds. He doesn't really take offense to that. And again, she's just as lazy as he is. Riku even says as much, and she's like, "So you noticed." It is legitimately impressive how much Tetsu Nomura screwed Kairi over in the sequels. You can chalk it up to the other. You can chalk it up to the other writers. Try saying that 5 times fast. But at the end of the day, Kairi has a personality. She's kind. She loves her friends. She's the shield. She is the shield. She loves to protect others. She is the shield of the group. Not only that, she also actually hands out potions, and potions are commonly associated with the Guardian class, seeing as how that one actually gives you 2 extra item slots. So it actually kind of hints that she's supposed to be the Guardian. She's the shield. She's the carer of the group. In fact, her earliest design concepts, which I'm probably not going to put too much on screen here. I'm probably just going to have like a image that I create of like all the different parts of Kingdom Hearts 1 just as a splash screen, just so we can have this on in the background. But Kairi was supposed to be like a more caring and kind character when the series first was created. She looks like she cares about people. She was supposed to be a motherly type of character. That being said, that was changed in production, but we'll get there. We'll get there. That being said, we now move on to Riku. What is Riku's type? The warrior. He's the sword of the group. He is foolhardy, charges right in. He is legitimately the state of able to capable of terrible destruction. He's quick. He's quick to anger. He's very quick to get into a fight. In fact, it's hinted that Riku plays dirty when he fights. Especially with how he can't be knocked off the island despite Sora being able to. He's able to actually retaliate after getting knocked down, something that Sora can't do. And he's even able to guard for a lot longer than Sora's ever able to do. He is supposed to be the guy that fights. He fights without too much of a plan. He's wild with how he swings. He is, without a doubt, the warrior. Terrible destruction and all that. And invincible courage. This leaves Sora with a choice. Does he want to follow Riku's path? Does he want to follow Kairi's path? Or does he want to follow his own path? So the final remix of all of the games actually hinted the fact that Sora's a very magical character. Yeah, so Sora's magic is actually his strongest asset no matter the game. Especially in Kingdom Hearts 1, where you have Ripple Drive, which was added for the final release, and which is canon, by the way. Thank you, Limit and Second Form. But Sora is the mage, inner strength, a weapon capable of great power and terrible ruin, or creation and ruin, or it's a duality. Wonder and Ruin, that's the one. The wand, the staff, the mage, the mystic. That is all of Sora. He's duality. He's an accompanies. He accompanies both states of Riku's personality and Kairi's personality and his own. He is a mixture of what he's learned and what he will learn. And it's actually a really good little design detail at the fact that the sword doesn't really fit Sora's look. I Well, yes, Ultimate Weapon does have a sword design. It's actually supposed to be reminiscent of a 1, because there are other games planned already. With Kingdom Hearts 2 having split down the middle, with Kingdom Hearts 3's Ultima having a 3-pronged look. This is supposed to be a 1. This is Sora's first ultimate weapon, his first adventure. I'll get more into what Sora is at his core during Chain of Memories, because that game strips away everything else from Sora except his core attributes. So we go through all of this, we have visions of the shadows of Darkseid, yada yada. Sora wakes up, that scene where Kairi's like, "Sorry, you lazy bum, I knew I'd find you snoozing down here." Yada yada. Riku hits Sora with a tree trunk, and then we start the actual game. So Destiny Islands consists of 3. Oh god damn it, really? Yeah, so we've got 3 Final Fantasy characters right off the bat. Tidus, Selphie, and Wakka. If you heard me say Tidus or Titus throughout all of this, when I talked about, are you two really friends? That's the reason why. It's not a same name situation. He's literally just here and literally just a kid. I don't really understand it. I don't really care. Let's just continue on. Destiny Islands, despite being a massive part to Sora's build up and how you understand him, is quite often overlooked, especially when it comes to interactions between characters. Kairi and Sora have a bit of banter back and forth. You can just talk to her, and a bunch of other things. In fact, you can talk to the other characters. Apparently, Sora, Riku, and Kairi aren't as close to Selphie, Tidus, and Wakka as those 3 are to each other. In fact, they haven't really talked about leaving the islands or leaving the world with them. In fact, it's kind of hinted that they don't really talk much at all, aside from like a few play fights. I'm not going to get into these 3 characters, they never show up again. That being said, however, I will get into the ending cutscene of today. This is where we learned that Kairi washed up on the islands like a while ago, and Riku's been thinking about it for quite a while. Sora and Kairi seem to just be going along with it. While Sora is excited to see other worlds, he would also be comfortable staying on the islands. Kairi wants to stay on the islands. It's her home. That's where we get the main driving force, Riku, who is excited to seek out all the other worlds. Find out they were born on this one. Riku isn't a very nice character. Again, he's the main driving force, but it seems a little bit forced onto Sora and Kairi at times, with Riku not really doing much for the raft. Well, you could say, oh, but he was building it, that's the reason why it comes with a tree trunk. Apparently, we still needed the sail, 2 trunks, cloth, rope. That's the sail, the cost the sail. And that's what we needed. Riku doesn't go to get any of this despite one of the tree trunks he was holding and another one being on the island he's stationed on. Well, you could say, oh, but that's like gameplay. It still is there. It's still right in front of him. the rope is by Titus, but in the corner. He might not have seen it or even really registered that we're building an actual raft. His main quote is, "Hey Sora, feeling lucky today?" Because it's clear that these two just fight it out a lot. They just spar with each other. In fact, it kind of makes a bit of sense. Those two have slightly similar fighting styles. In fact, one of Sora's finishers, aerial finishers, actually looks like one of Titus's heavier hits. Um, Walker's quote for the day is, uh, I forgot what it is, but basically his opening line is, "Hey, want to go around? Yeah, sure, I can play. Play is for kids. This is serious." And then hits you in the face with a beach ball. Uh, Selfies is, the breeze feels great. And if you ask her to spar, she's like, "Thought you'd never ask," and gets into it. It's clear that they just have fun, spar a little bit. It's just fun for them. Riku takes it seriously. In fact, he's got a scoreboard and everything. And he's also able to fight all three of the other island kids at once and still win. Um, but yeah, it's just clear that Riku isn't very nice to anyone, really. He's just sort of forcing his wants and needs onto the other two. They go along with it because he's their friend. They do like him and do want to support him in this. But to be honest, if Riku gave up or the raft was washed away or anything like that, they would just be fine with staying on Destiny Islands, staying at their homes. And then we get to the second day. Again, Riku does nothing. Again, you could say, "Oh, but he made the raft yesterday or last night or something like that." That also doesn't really work because he does nothing today at all. He races Sora like once, loses. Well, yes, you could say he technically wins because the gummy ship is called Highwind. To be honest, I really don't give a crap about that. That is literally just the name of the ship model. That's just the name of the ship model. Dude, there's Highwind level 3 during Kingdom Hearts 3 and 2 and any other game with the gummy ship. You could call it whatever you like and it would still be considered canon because that's what Sora suggests. Hell, it could be called Excalibur. The ultimate gummy ship could be called Excalibur for all we know. Also, seriously? You just couldn't resist it. Seriously, Tetsunomura? Seriously? You're gonna find that I'm not too happy with some of his creative decisions. Some of them I actually agree with, some of them I don't. So, again, not a lot happens, but Sora has to go around collecting a few things. Kairi, we can at least assume she's not as physically fit as the other two. She does seem a bit skinnier and a bit like she doesn't really fight. In fact, she is shown to be quite slow during the opening scene when they're all racing each other. And it's very clear that she's usually the referee for when they're racing. Kairi is, however, making a charm. This is called a wayfinder. It's supposed to help sailors find their way home. It's fitting that she's making this, considering events. But it also does prove that, hey, she has kind of become an islander native. She loves this place. And it's also where we get a few other great interactions with her and Sora. Because if you tell her that if you did win and you tell her that, then she's like, "Huh, does that mean I call you Captain Sora now?" "Okay, Captain Sora, you found everything yet?" That her dialogue actually changes to reflect that little nickname. It's clear that these two have a history and are great friends. Riku, on the other hand, is a bit of a dick about it, but we'll get to that another day. Or we won't, because at the end of today, Kairi legitimately goes, "Sora, let's take the raft. Just the two of us." As soon as Sora's like, What? She backpedals and goes, "Just kidding." But it's clear that she doesn't like Riku the same way that Sora clearly looks up to him. It's clear that she likes Sora more than she likes Riku. It's made very clear that Sora's kind of the glue that holds these two together. Sort of how like you have a mutual friend but you don't really know the other guy, or not really a fan of the other guy, but you mutually just sort of exist around each other because you've got that one friend that you both kind of like. Yeah, that's like a whole entire situation that I'm not going to get into. But this scene does drive home that Kyra and Riku aren't the greatest of friends, and that Sora is the median between the two. And then we get the scene that. Oh boy. I neglected to tell you something. I neglected to tell you about the mysterious figure that comes when Sora finds the third mushroom. In fact, you could probably find this guy before meeting anybody else because Sora's like, hey, we're probably collecting food today, I could probably go and grab the mushroom first. And when he goes to grab it, this mysterious guy appears and disappears. He talks about how the world is being connected, how one who understands nothing, one who knows nothing can understand nothing, and how everything's tied to the darkness now. So, when they say worlds, they're not meaning like Jupiter or Pluto, Viva la Pluto, screw you, or anything like that. Heard about Pluto? That's messed up, right? They are talking about other universes. Every single world in Kingdom Hearts is its own universe, with their own planetary system, with their own solar systems, ever expanding, ever growing. In fact, we get to see an actual instance of this during Kingdom Hearts 3, where it is directly stated that there are planets in the Olympus world. Yeah, there's Mars, Jupiter, everything else. All the planets have to be aligned for the Titans to be released. But what about the other planets? Wouldn't they technically be able to come into line like the stars? Well, no. That's not true at all. If anything, that's less true because we get to see during Olympus Coliseum from Kingdom Hearts 2, Zeus can control the stars, or the stars can control themselves to mark out the patterns of a hero. Again, one sky, one story, blah blah blah. While it can be a glimpse into whatever other planets are out there, they are, at the end of the day, just actual stars. They might reflect the state of the world, but they don't always mean it. I feel like a lot of people tend to have this misconception due to like the world map or the fact that we don't get to see the outside of things, but San Francisco literally has the fact that people have been to space. They have astronauts, everything. It also takes place after Big Hero 6 series, but we're not getting into that because it breaks a bit of canon, but whatever. Then you have Monsteropolis, who literally connects to an Earth, meaning Monsteropolis is literally its own planet, its own dimension within this other world. So, again, these worlds aren't just one planet, they're a universe. These kids were planning to take a raft to another universe. Okay, sure, why not? But that's what this guy means by everything is connected and everything's being tied to the darkness. The darkness is consuming everything. And one sky, one sea, one destiny is a common phrase in this series, despite only being said like twice, maybe. We get to Sora's home. He's actually in a pretty big room. He's sitting beside like an open window. It's very clearly a hot night. It is already dark. It is already dark, meaning it's like 7 or 8 at night. I would have to say it's like an hour or two to get to the Play Islands. So by the time Sora gets there, it's like 9 or 10. There is a giant ass storm. It is dark. It is a mix of purple, blacks, and grays. It is very clearly something not from this world. In fact, this is a dark storm. This is what happens when a dark side is able to come out of the realm of darkness and swallow a world. This is even if they can't find the keyhole, or if the keyhole is unable to be found. If a boss Heartless powers up enough or gathers enough strength, they can still destroy a world even if the keyhole isn't found. If it's still protected by the world's natural defenses, but isn't locked by a keyblade. So Sora, seeing this, goes to the island, thinking it's just a normal storm. He goes to check on the raft. When he arrives there, both Riku and Kairyu's boats are here. It's hinted at that Riku and Kairi either arrived around the same time or Riku arrived first, if he even left the island. There is a giant door. This door pops up a few other times. Once it's during Sora's dream, and the other at the end of the game. It is a beautiful white door with a bit of stained glass around the top. It is a double door that Sora can't open. Sora probably spots Riku and goes to run up to him, where Riku has the most cryptic shit to say, but before that, we need to talk about the Heartless. So there's a bit of contradictions with how to talk about the Heartless. There's a bit of a general rule behind them, but here's how I understand it, and I seek for you to go check out your own information. I've been living with the series since I was like 4. I have been living and growing up with this series. Heartless are darkness made manifest. There are 2 types, pure blood, which are darkness incarnate. These things can destroy worlds even just with a little bit of their own darkness. If they get into a keyhole, everything's gone. Everything's become swallowed by the darkness. The other is Emblem Heartless. These are a bit stronger than the common purebloods, but only because they are accompanying, they are embodying the hearts of actual people. That's what's powering them. That's the reason why they're stronger than normal purebloods. They can seek out other hearts and just basically not create. They can create new Heartless from that, but they just basically steal hearts a lot of the time. So these things are universe enders, just right off the bat. In fact, they're multiverse enders, because the same Heartless can affect multiple worlds. Going off of that logic, we have to take a step back and go, okay, so these things probably can only affect the worlds, right? No, due to the fact that they're able to affect hearts, even the purebloods are really dangerous. Despite even the most simple of purebloods, the Shadow, being one of the weakest. Sora can't even harm these things. His wooden sword passes right through them. This is a Sora at his absolute lowest without any power behind him. Sora can get hit by these things, by the way. He has innate darkness resistance. He is not being just inherently gobbled up by the darkness straight away. He is resistant to it. Then we get to the scene where Riku's like, the door has opened, Sora. I have joined a cult. Riku, what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah, Riku joined a cult. Anyway. So, despite Sora trying to save him from the Cult of Darkness, Riku kinda gets swallowed by it, and we find out later that he ends up in a certain location that I'm not going to talk about because Final Mix adds a weird scene or two. But, Sora unlocks the Keyblade. Please note, the way you get a Keyblade is heavily rewritten later on, so we're gonna we're gonna gloss past this bullshit and just continue on. Sora is now able to fight and defeat the shadows. Fun! He goes back to the door, opens it, and he has to see Kairi literally become a ghost and pass right through him, and then has to fight Darkseid on the last remaining piece of his island. It's a small arena, and it is very clear that this is the last of his home. In fact, Sora doesn't register this fact yet. After winning, Sora sucked into the giant, literal universe, multiverse ending orb of darkness and winds up in Traverse Town. Please remember, I'm only talking about Sora's story. Anything that happens with the Disney characters that do not include Sora in this scene, I will not be talking about. So, Sora is now on Traverse Town. Traverse Town is a world that was literally created by the universe itself for people that have lost their homes. It's a massive town, and we see in Kingdom Hearts Strange Drop Distance, it used to have a lot more districts, a lot more places. It's got a giant post office underneath it. But it's also blocked off because the darkness, the Heartless, have basically consumed most of the world. They haven't gotten to the area with the keyhole, but it's very clearly hinted that anybody that wasn't in the first, second, or third district is now dead. They're gone. They're heartless now. In fact, when Sora, you can actually ignore Sid. It's just a funny little detail that never gets brought up again. You can actually just ignore him, and he has like no unique dialogue when you actually finally go back to him. Leon attacks you straight away though, because he registers the fact that the Keyblade wielder is here. Anyway, you meet Sid. Sid is oh. You ever played Final Fantasy 15? Remember how he's like a grumpy mechanic there? Yeah, that's basically what he is here as well, except there's a little bit of a difference. Sid is never actually voiced in this game. None of the characters, actually, scratch that, a few of them are. No, Sid is never voiced in this game. He's just grumpy old man. Merlin's also never voiced in this game. There's a few other characters that are never quite voiced in this game. So, when going over all of that, I actually have to take a bit of the information given with a grain of salt. Sid directly says he doesn't quite know, hey, whatever happened to your world? I don't know. He directly says that. But this sure isn't your island. Sid is being purposely vague, despite him being the reason why the Restoration Committee is even there. It's a whole situation. But Sora screws off from that guy because, honestly, he was just being a weird old man, and basically goes into the second district where he sees a man get murked. Yeah, so Sora directly sees a man with his heart coming out of his body and becomes a soldier. It's unclear if he makes a nobody, but nobodies didn't exist yet, so we won't talk about that. So Sora beats a few Heartless, goes back to Sid, is like, yeah, no, I have no idea what's going on. Hey, use that save point because you're about to have a boss fight. That's essentially what the room's for, anyway. Then you have to fight Leon. Now, this is one of the few cool scenes in this game where you could lose or you could win. I do like to think of the fact that Sora wins, just because it makes later interactions a lot funnier. And the fact that you have to fight this guy again and again and again and again and again. Anyway, Sora finally gets Leon onto one knee, but passes out due to exhaustion. Yeah, you're gonna notice a theme here. Sora's been up for like multiple hours at this point. He's had a rough day. But after he comes to in the hotel room, presumably about like 2 hours later, he gets a bit of exposition dump. The Keyblade is the only thing that can fell the Heartless. The Heartless are something that consume worlds, and there was this old guy called Ansem who had his own secret reports that detailed what the Heartless are. These reports do nothing to help out in how to understand the story. Don't get me wrong, they're interesting, but they either contradict each other or lead off into rambles. Well, you could say, but isn't that what most research notes are? No, they're not. This is just some guy pretending to write actual journal notes. They don't make sense. I could go over all of them now. They're just not that interesting, nor do they really help the story in any way. Kingdom Hearts 2's journal entries do, however, but Kingdom Hearts 1's don't, so yeah, we're going to ignore that for now. However, we also have to go over one or two extra things. First and foremost, Sora is currently, like, at his wit's end. He's just done with everything. However, this does not mean Sora is being a dick about anything. He's just tired. He wants to go home, please. Except, he can't. His islands are gone. So Sora now has to deal with all of this information, all of these people, everything without a buffer, without the comfort of his own home. It's actually sad. But it does lead us into dealing with other things. Oh, hey, look, it's that thing that guy turned into. It's a soldier. Basically, the poster child for all Emblem Heartless. Because this is the only Emblem Heartless other than, like, large bodies, which stays consistent amongst all the games. Even Air Pirates get, like, an entirely different design. It's a whole thing for me, okay? So, going off of all of that, we have to... So, going off of all of that, we now have Leon saying, hey, don't bother with the small fry, just find the big one, the leader. It is actually made abundantly clear that Heartless aren't mindless, not in the way that we presumably think. They've got instincts, and they follow those instincts to a T, but they also have a bit more smarts behind them. They can legitimately go for, say, a book that has an entire world in it. They can go for multiple different locations, multiple different things. They can go after specific objects. They can go after a lot. Nobody's are still smarter, but that's Kingdom Hearts 2 stuff, so I'm not going to go into that. However, this does mean that we get to the final boss of Traverse Town. Reminder, I'm cutting out a lot here. There's a lot of other scenes, and I'm just basically summarizing everything. I'm already an hour into this crap. So, meet up with Donald and Goofy. They crash land on us. Donald uses fire. Goofy has a shield. I guess they just didn't want to show a cartoon character with a sword. But Goofy's actually pretty good with the shield, so it's actually pretty clear that, yeah, he's the captain of the Knights of the Royal Guard for a reason. Anyway, they beat up all of the Shadow soldiers, and then they have to fight the guard armor. Yeah. This thing has two designs. It's not really important. Then we get into the aftermath, where they introduce themselves. Donald literally lies and goes, "We'll find them on the way," when Sora talks about Riku and Kairi, and he's like, who knows, but we need him to help us find the king. And then Sora learns two abilities. It's actually made pretty clear that Donald doesn't get his abilities as quickly as Sora does. While gameplay wise, Donald does get upgrades or gets access to new abilities the same time Sora does, it's actually made clear during cutscenes that Donald just has these abilities right off the bat. Donald's already able to use Thunder, despite us not getting that until Atlantica, if you ignore Olympus Coliseum for a bit, or Olympus Coliseum, which could be either your second, third, or fourth world, or even the second to last, and yada yada, so on and so forth. So, no, I don't deem Donald as having no magic before this adventure. I deem him as only using what Sora knows. Or we just don't get to see him use that crap because the gameplay literally won't allow it. We literally see him using Thunder in his opening cutscene. Like, what? Now, don't get me wrong, upgrades can come alongside it, but whatever. Sora learns Fire, presumably just by watching Donald or getting a little bit of a demonstration. You're gonna notice a lot that Sora just learns magic by watching either somebody else or something else doing it. Sora's a visual learner and he can learn a lot of techniques just off the fly. Goofy teaches Sora how to dodge roll. Abilities are canon. A lot of finishers are canon. A lot of moves are canon. A lot of keychains are canon. Pretty much everything is canon, so that's the reason why I'm mentioning them. Goofy also says, "Hey, we should look out for more abilities like this along our adventure," which I guess means that these abilities come in like little capsules or something like that. Um, so Wonderland is most likely going to be the first world you experience. The reason why I say that is because one, it's the lower battle level, and two, it makes a narrative sense. Well, you could say, oh, but Olympus Coliseum doesn't really have a narrative, so that could be first. There's also the fact that it just makes more sense for the story if that Wonderland is first. I'll get into Olympus Coliseum at another time. Probably near the end because it's like odds and ends. Wonderland is weird. It is possibly the weirdest world to ever start with because everything about it is nonsensical, but also magical in nature. If they ended up in this world first, they might never have found Sora because the Queen of Hearts exists. So Queenie over here is a bit of a what's the word? Oh, yeah. She's gone cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And that's just putting it lightly. She is batshit insane. And Alice is here. It's directly hinted at that Wonderland and Alice's London are actually part of the same world, rather than Alice being from a different world entirely. Which wouldn't make sense because that means all of the worlds are connected in their own ways, and that is specifically not possible because of multiple different reasons. But wait, then how did Kairi? She wound up here on a gummy ship, my dude. Anyway, going off of that, Donald pulls Sora aside and is like, hey, no meddling. We gotta protect the world. We gotta protect the world border. Order! But Sora just blatantly ignores this. In fact, even Donald and Goofy ignore this later on too, because they realize that, yeah, this rule is kind of bullshit, because Heartless show up anyway, they're probably fine. Sora directly jumps in to defend Alice, which actually might have saved her life. See, if she had run into the flower room or the Lotus Forest, which, wow, that is a name, she would have run directly into a bunch of Heartless, which would have taken her and kidnapped her to whatever other world. Meaning Sora, Donald, and Goofy might not have realized that she'd actually been kidnapped, or just thought that she returned to her own place and not have worried about it. I would like to remind everybody, these games are on a time crunch. They have like a couple of days to save everything in all of reality. That being said, this game actually does a pretty good job of making sure that you know that everything's in a time crunch, and that you're basically playing this game in real time. So they have to find evidence to prove Alice's innocence. The Queen is insane, but she does at least allow a fair trial. Somewhat. They let them gather evidence, and Sora can learn Blizzard. So Cheshire Cat basically gives Sora a little bit of instinctual knowledge on how to use Blizzard, and Sora gains upgrades through it throughout the rest of the game. You also get this for beating the Taskmaster, or Trickmaster, or whatever you want to call this thing. I say this thing like I'm showing images. Basically, it's the boss of the final part of this world, so we'll get to that later. But it also means that Sora can receive magic innately. So then we showed them the evidence. In fact, you only need to collect one evidence. You could even get the most difficult one and get Blizzard for the ease of use. So I'll get into how magic works in a separate video because I've got my own thing for that. In fact, I have my own video for that. It's being recorded. It's just been sitting there for so long. It's almost finished. I need to finish that. Okay. Ignoring my really bad attempts at doing videos and upload schedule because who has a consistent one? Here we go. So the Queen's basically like, off with their heads! And basically can either trap Donald or Goofy or both if you don't collect enough evidence and choose the wrong box. You can free them just by hitting the top of the cage or using Blizzard on it a few times, but Sora can do it on its own. And you have to fight off the card soldiers while dealing with the Crank Tower. The Crank Tower doesn't really have health the same way enemies do. It definitely does have a bit of health, but it takes a number of hits to defeat. It also drops a lot of prizes and everything, so that's fun. But also, I want to point out something. You can hit the Queen during this, and while the red cards will faint, the black cards will get angry and try and attack you quicker and harder. It's a bit of risk versus reward because you cut out half of the other type, but half of them just get pissed off at you. So you beat that, Alice's cage comes down, and it's revealed that she's gone. She's been kidnapped. The Queen forgoes your execution to try and find Alice because, well, somebody took her. She couldn't have escaped on her own. Even the Queen realizes that. And later on in the story, after a few story events, the Queen's even preparing her kingdom to fight against the darkness if it comes knocking again. Which is like a really cool little detail that not a lot of people really realize, because that means that while she might be insane, she does care for her kingdom. And to be fair, if somebody tried to rip out my heart, I think I'll be a bit irrational too. So then we have to go through the different versions of the Bizarre Room. It's a headache. You have to light 2 of the lamps on the ceiling. What is this world? And then you have to fight the Trickmaster. Trickmaster is weird. It is basically only fitting for Wonderland and only in its original colors. It is primarily red and black with a few like goldish yellowish accents, with faces that are a mismatch of red and black, sort of like a card holder. It's also got a juggling act and can fling fireballs at you. It can also do a smash attack, removing the table and chair that allow you to actually attack it. Interesting little fact, this thing is weak to thunder. Not like takes like double damage or anything like that. No, it gets knocked over if you hit it with thunder. It is a literal living lightning rod. That's neat. Moving on to Deep Jungle. This is the reason why I think this one takes place second, because Donald and Sora are still getting into little tiffs and not really friends with each other yet, not in the way that most people will assume. They get into an argument about even going to Deep Jungle. In fact, this is the first time that Sora directly argues against what the other two think. Yeah, Sora argues to go to this world to check it out because, hey, Riku or Kairi might be there. But Donald's like, do you think the king would be in a backwater place like this? And is basically a dick about it. They wake up by the end of the world, but for a fair chunk of it, they're actually angry at each other. They don't just make up the second they see each other. Well, they are happy to see each other, like, healthy, safe, and alive, but they're also still angry at each other. In fact, this world is peaceful, for lack of a better word, for quite a while. The only enemy that you have for, like, a good chunk of exploration and the like is, in fact, Sabor, who should be dead by this point in the story, but welcome to Kingdom Hearts. The dad doesn't exist, I guess. Do I need to just leave this world, return, Heartless come back, or whatever? Nope. This world is actually structured pretty reliably to the movie. Clayton is a gorilla hunter. He wants to just murder the gorillas. I guess for their pelts? It's unclear why he's wanting to do it. It's never really explained. It's just animal cruelty, which is always bad. But does fit his character, oddly enough. However, we also have to deal with a few other facts. Tarzan has wind magic, as well as healing herbs. Yeah, that's just something Tarzan has in this game. Crap, I lost my ring like Sonic. Anyway, moving on from that, we do also get a little bit more information about these characters. Sora's actually pretty good at adapting to the environment, with him being able to reliably get a hand on swinging across the vines, climbing up objects, or moving alongside climbable walls. It's shown that Sora's pretty agile. In fact, he's pretty used to moving around. On the other hand, when we finally get to when the Heartless appear, they're monkeys. They're not apes or chimpanzees or anything, they're just straight up monkeys. These shit slingers basically jump with you with scratch attacks, or actually use one of Sora's abilities, Sliding Dash, where they're able to slide along the ground and hit you. Sora actually has this ability. It's actually interesting to see a Heartless use one of Sora's abilities. So far, we've only seen magic. Added to Final Mix. Added to Final Mix, we have the Phantom Opera. Or Thunder Ballade? Thunder Ballade, that's the one. Or Phantom Ballade? Either way, it is a black and purple of a few other Heartless that we've seen, and is added to Final Mix. It is basically able to create clones of itself, and Sora has to correct the hit one. Hit the correct one to be able to defeat it. It's not actually killed, by the way. It is one of the few playful Heartless, much like the white mushroom, where if you do things in a correct order, it'll drop something for you. It's playful. That is the truth of it. Not all Heartless are straight up evil. Some of them are just inherently good. And smart enough to do this. Added to Final Mix again. Nothing for this world, but there are other Heartless just hidden around the worlds that are stronger or an optional fight that gives you a really powerful uh, item or ability or things like that. Some of them were added in the English version, but I like to say added in the final mix because that's what was added for the Japanese version. Moving on, we have to rescue Turk from Clayton, which. Am I the only one that didn't realize that Turk was a girl? Because I didn't watch the movie when I was younger, so I didn't actually know that. So that's weird, I guess. Anyway, moving on. Heartless start appearing because Clayton's darkness drew them to the world. In fact, it's literally stated during one of the cutscenes that take place out of Sora's story, but at least explains why they were even there in the first place. Continuity detail. If you haven't done Wonderland yet, which you need to do, Snow White will be taken instead of Alice during the final scene of the world. Doesn't quite make sense because it has been like a few years, but whatever. I guess she was kind of just in a stasis pod before her heart was ripped out and put into a new Keyblade. Yeah, this story gets weird, man. Moving on. We beat up a bunch of Heartless. Then we just straight up kill Sabor. Just beat the goddamn Jaguar Cheetah to death. Yeah, that's brutal. Blunt force trauma to the noggin. So, fun times all around, I guess. That mini boss aside, mini boss. Please keep in mind, Sabor is actually a pretty powerful enemy that keeps on coming back. Now that you're fighting her for the last time, well, yes, the journal does say Sabor is a girl. Sabor is a female. What the hell is wrong with this journal? In fact, after that, we have to fight Clayton. Yeah, I think Craven the Hunter would love to have a word with whatever you're riding on. So Clayton is riding a stealth sneak. These are giant-ass chameleons with laser eyes, power over wind, being able to cause literal wind blades to go after you, and can kick you across half the map, if the knockback was that good at the time. And can go invisible. It is still a chameleon after all. Clayton has apparently lost his heart, and we are apparently fighting Clayton's Heartless and Nobody. Yeah, that is impressive. I'll get to what a Nobody is in Kingdom Hearts 2, or even Chain of Memories, because that's where they first appear, canonically. But yeah, that is impressive that Sora is able to take out both at the same time. Clayton also doesn't come back, which leads me to believe that due to what Sora did, he actually sent Clayton off to the final world. In fact, it's kind of hinted that him having his self turned into a Heartless might have been a desperation move because Sabor might have mauled him to death. It is because that is what is hinted at in that cutscene. Because Sabor doesn't have like any noticeable wounds or doesn't seem strong, like any weaker or hurt or anything. In fact, it seems stronger than normal, meaning that yeah, Sabor might have mauled Clayton to almost death, and then he turned himself into Heartless and Nobody to sort of take revenge. That is just crazy. Anyway, that little theory jumble aside, We beat the guy, we find the keyhole, we lock it. We also did it for Wonderland, doesn't make sense. The cutscene that's either continually accurate or just doesn't make sense happens. Then we go back to Traverse Town. So we get to take Winnie the Pooh's book to Merlin, and that's what we find. Multiple pages are missing. Oh boy. So this is going to be a running theme for 2 of the games, but not all of them. 100 Acre Wood is actually missing a few pages because the book is very old. It's scattered alongside the worlds because Merlin has to come to Traverse Town after escaping Hollow Bastion, meaning some of the pages got lost in travel. I'm not going to mention where you find them or how many they are. It's just not important. I'll cover 100 Acre Wood around the end of the story. Anyway, after that, we get sent back to God damn it, Sid. We get sent back to Sid, who has finished installing the new gummy because the gummy pieces dropped after sealing keyholes, which means that the worlds themselves create the gummy blocks to help you travel between them. It's a mess. It's a whole thing. It's plot relevant. So then we can continue on to Agrabah. Interesting facts to note. All 3 worlds, 100 Acre Wood, Olympus Coliseum, Traverse Town, as well as either Halloween Town or Atlantica or Monstro, just one of those 3, are optional. That brings a total to 4 worlds which are entirely optional in this game. That is crazy to think about. Because you don't have to do Olympus Coliseum at all unless you're wanting a few magic upgrades. Monstro is only good if you're wanting, like, say, stop magic, because you get the secondary one later on in the story anyway, I think. Or do you get it from... No, you get it from one of the Hades Cup fights, I think. Or do you get it story-wise? It's unclear where you get the second stop upgrade. But that could even be your first upgrade if you don't go through all of Monstro. And then we end up in Agrabah. I just thought I'd mention that really interesting fact. So we end up in Agrabah, and then we have to... we're kind of playing through the events of the movie. Aladdin's just been to the Cave of Wonders, yet Jafar is canonically known to be a world traveler and has already taken over the entire town. So that's neat, I guess. Whatever. Hold on, just gotta double check a couple facts before continuing. Seems like 2 secs for you. For me, it's like a few minutes. Okay, back, double checked a few facts. Let's continue on. So we actually have to travel around the city. There's like a few puzzles. There's like a few keyholes we have to unlock that are just for gates. It's a whole thing. Anyway, so we discover Jasmine. Jafar kidnaps Jasmine. Jasmine gets kidnapped again. And then again. Why do you keep on getting kidnapped? People make jokes about Kairi getting kidnapped, but Jasmine gets kidnapped more in her first ever appearance than Kairi does throughout the entire series. That's weird. Anyway, moving on. As said before, we have to play through the events of the movie, so we have to go and rescue Aladdin, who's just come out of the Cave of Wonders, who has the genie lamp. We get rescued by Genie. Genie explains exposition dumps a few things. Apparently, Genie is aware of other worlds. In fact, he even mentioned seeing a keyhole somewhere. And it's been a few hundred years, but he's at least knowledgeable over the fact that other worlds exist. It's even kind of hinted out in the movie that he does. It's just weird. Oh, right. Getting back, have to fight the pot centipede. This isn't even a boss Heartless. This is just a regular run-of-the-mill Heartless. Yeah, this is a mini-boss. That's just weird. It is like got a health bar up the wazoo, and so many parts of it that can attack. It is literally a pot centipede with pot spiders, making up most of its body. And you can move it, both the head and the tail are connected with a health bar, but it's a weird Heartless. Go look it up. Go watch a video on how to beat it because wow. It is just weird. Then we have to go to the Cave of Wonders. The Cave of Wonders, the Guardian of the Cave of Wonders, has been corrupted by the darkness. Okay, sure. The second that we rescue the Cave of Darkness from the darkness by beating it out of its eye sockets, seriously, this game gets weird. We're allowed in. We're also allowed to take whatever treasures are in it. Well, you could say, but isn't this like just a change from the movie to the game? I also like to think it's a sort of thank you from the Cave of Wonders, because it means that canonically Sora can take whatever treasure chest and just move around in it any way that he can. Because remember, Aladdin and Abu almost got swallowed whole because of the fact that, hey, yeah, they took treasure they weren't supposed to. Moving on from that, we have to fight Jafar, basically the ultimate magician. Sora manages to beat his ass back, and when Jafar is actually on the verge of either being unconscious or dead, because I don't know how far Sora will willingly go for these people, Jafar makes his last and final wish. In case you're wondering, his first wish was to, oh yeah, reveal the keyhole. His second wish, Jesus, this happens like 2 seconds later, is for the genie to destroy them. Genie, wasn't one of your one rules like you can't like actually kill people? I mean, I suppose it could destroy people even without killing them, like just turning them into a vegetable state. So, yeah, okay, so maybe it does make sense. Like, Genie can harm people. And his last and final wish is to make me an old powerful genie! Yeah, I'm not screaming. I've already murdered my lungs recently. But, before this boss fight, the second boss fight, the one against Genie Jafar, Sora obtains Blizzara, because one of Jafar's moves is summoning an ice storm in the middle of the arena. Sora saw this, went, oh cool, literally, and got an upgrade to his ice magic. That's fun, I guess. We're not even halfway through this game, Jesus. Okay. Genie Jafar. This guy isn't a genie, he's a djinn. The difference between them is that djinns are quite often spirits that are made of fire. They are very. What's the word? They're not evil, but they are more willing to harm people just for the hell of it. Hell. Anyway, Sora can actually do a little bit of damage to Genie Jafar using Blizzara. That's the entire reason why they're even given this spell. It doesn't do a lot of damage, don't get me wrong, but it still does a little bit, meaning that yes, with one of his most powerful spells, Sora is able to beat back a genie. Sora, however, has to beat Iago, who's being currently empowered by both the lamp and Jafar, who is trying to keep them away from the lamp. When Sora finally gets a hold of the lamp, he literally traps Jafar back inside of it. The manga has a great panel of this where, like, oh yeah, hey Jafar, did you forget that genies are, like, reliant on the lamp holder? And, like, Sora's like, okay Jafar, back to your lamp. And just leaves it to be, like, crushed in all the rubble of that room. The Cave of Wonders finally collapses because 1, the keyhole's been locked, and 2, well, that room was already destroyed. It is doing the self-defense mechanism, basically. Once you leave, Aladdin's like, hey, take me with you. Take me with you to the other world, please. And Sora's like, hey, sorry, we can't do that. There's like a world order we gotta protect. And Aladdin's like, hey, Genie, I wish for your freedom. Can you do me a favor and go with these guys? And Genie's like, sure. And this is how we get our second summon. I forgot about the first summon. Oh god. So summons are not really used a lot in this game. They're not exactly the best until you get like Bambi, Mushu, whatever, where you beat a lot of Heartless. It's the whole thing. Anyway, summons remove your party members, but they do increase in massive power or have a massive power attached to them. Simba has a very loud ass roar which can stun or just outright kill Heartless, and Genie can use a couple of spells just rapid fire. At the end of the Jafar fight, Sora got an upgrade to Fire, turning into Fire-Ra, a bigger fireball, which makes sense because Genie Jafar, or Jin Jafar, was throwing giant rocks of lava and magma at Sora, so that's fun. Well, lava's the above ground one, magma's the below ground one, so I guess it would just be magma balls. That makes a fair amount of sense. Moving on. Oh god, I forgot to mention this too. When you seal the keyholes to Traverse Town, you obtain Arrow. Arrow is a defensive spell. It basically halves damage, which is incredibly useful, especially when you don't have the greatest defense. And it also has the added benefit of like just reducing damage from projectiles. Later, more powerful additions can like actually harm whatever is attacking you. So that means you're basically immune to normal Heartless trying to attack you physically. It also counts as a second hit, so if you're doing something that requires like a hit amount, it still counts. So that's neat. And then for the end of the Clayton and Stealth Sneak fight, you get Cure. So that's what you get. That's what you get. You get the like 5 main spells from like those 4 worlds. So that's fun. That's neat. That's cool. Moving on, we've got Monstro. Monstro is actually a world that can, well, world with quotations around it. It's just a giant space whale. I like to go to Atlantica first, that way it matches up thematically, but this world can actually appear between either Agrabah and Halloween Town or Agrabah and Atlantica. It just moves sometimes. Sometimes it's not even there. This whale actually swallows you whole. Yeah, don't look into it. This is actually the size of a goddamn world. It's also one of the few creatures that's able to just travel to different worlds without issue. When you're in there, you have a little bit of a plot relevance. Yeah, Monstro is plot relevant. You might have noticed how I skipped a lot of the story or a lot of the scenes from the other worlds. That's because Monstro is the first one where I actually need to talk a little bit more in depth. God, this is gonna be like 3 hours. Jesus. Help me, Jesus. Anyway, Monstro's story actually comes in the fact that, well, Pinocchio has a heart. Not like metaphorically, like an actual literal heart. The stuff the Heartless are after. This puppet has a heart. It is revealed in Kingdom Hearts Union Cross back cover that everything has a heart, even like the blades of grass and like petals in the wind and shit like that. So I suppose it makes sense, I guess? Sure, let's go with that. But it also means that Pinocchio is actually of interest to Riku? Yep, Riku appears. And holy crap, it's been a minute. I didn't even mention this because it was so irrelevant when he first appeared. This guy appeared way back on the second visit to Traverse Town. I just completely glossed over it because it just wasn't important. So I was like, I'm so happy to see you. Donald's like, he can't come. Why not? Because we don't have enough seats in the cockpit? That's a good point, but we could like just make another one for him. Where the hell did he go? That is the scene. That's it. That's the scene. That is what it boils down to. It is so completely irrelevant and doesn't matter in the long run of it. It's literally just to introduce the fact that Riku is suddenly here again. He's able to go between worlds. Final Mix adds a scene where Maleficent finds him in at the front of where she's residing, but this actually kind of diminishes the reveal of the fact that he's working for the villains later on, so, you know, whatever. Moving on. Oh, what's wrong, Zora? I thought you liked to play games. Hey, Riku, not now. We're currently in Monstro's digestive tracts. We need to get Geppetto, not Geppetto, Pinocchio back to Geppetto because his dad's worried about him. Come on, Sora, let's play a game. Are you a broken record or something? Like, what's going on with you? Riku, cut this out. So, yeah, Riku's trying to be playful, which is weird to Sora. And also weird to us because from what we've seen, Riku's been the responsible one up to this point. Why is Riku acting like this? So Riku basically kidnaps Pinocchio and sends Heartless after us. It is implied that these Heartless are under his control due to later scenes, so we're just gonna go with that. Monstro is a headache to navigate, and you need an actual guide to get around. I'm not going to get into like the actual layout or what's all there or anything like that. It is just an interesting design because it actually is pretty damn cool. Not gonna get into too much of it though. So then we move on from this. So they find the parasite cage, which is apparently eaten Pinocchio. Parasite Cage is actually interesting. This is one of the few Heartless that weren't designed to actually fight. Not in the way we're thinking. So, fun fact the back of it is made out of some weird blue stuff, while the front of it is made out of weird squishy pink. If you know what the monster's guts look like, yeah, you're gonna realize that this thing's made out of like stomach lining. This shit's made out of like flesh. This is a weird, fleshy Heartless with a cage in it that's holding Pinocchio captive. The parasite cage has literally been made to capture something. That is terrifying. Because that means Heartless aren't just for fighting, they're meant to capture and imprison as well. Anyway, interesting little continuity. If you do this after certain story events, Riku will just show up, be eerily silent, kidnap Pinocchio a few times, and not help out in this boss fight. If this is before any of those events, Riku will help out in this boss fight. You can also just fling fireballs at it from afar. That's fun too. For beating it for the first time, you don't gain any magic or anything like that, but directly afterwards, you gain high jump. This allows you to traverse the world a bit better and reach areas you weren't able to before. And then, after fighting it for a second time, after Pinocchio is. I don't know what happened to him. Was he punched? Did he get, like, almost his heart taken or something? Like, what actually happened to Pinocchio? It's never explained, but also apparently that nose is omnipotent because, well, Pinocchio believed he wouldn't be okay. It still grew when he said, I'm not gonna make it, so. Uh, sure, I guess. Anyway, Parasite Cage 2 Electric Boogaloo. This is where we learn it's made out of stomach lining, because it's able to use the stomach acid for Monstro. Fun fact, this stomach acid is the only time in the game where the poison effect will affect Sora. Yeah, it is literally created for this one arena. You can actually attack this thing, you can just fight it, you beat it to a pulp, and once you win the fight, you gain the power over time. Stop. You can freeze time now. That's fun. Anyway, moving on. Riku's just gone now and added in the final mix. Grand Ghost. This thing lives up to its name. It is just a giant version of a ghost Heartless that was seen before, a search ghost. You can look it up if you want to. This thing can only be harmed if you use potions or high potions, mega potions, elixirs, or mega elixirs on it. Using elixirs or mega elixirs on it will cause it to drop whatever rare item it actually spawns, no matter what. Meaning you can get multiple if you're willing to waste an elixir or two. If you use Cure on it, I think you do get like a potion, so you're able to harm it. It's just a whole thing. It's actually pretty interesting mechanics wise, and it's just an interesting Heartless in all. Moving on, if you've then moving on, we've got Atlantica. Under the sea, under the sea. Stay down here, wear a sweater. Blah 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 blah. Under the sea. That is the main theme of this world's backing track because holy crap, is this world bad? It's not actually, it's just that the memes will make you believe so. So I actually like this world. It's fun, interesting, and a lot of the chests are actually clams. Clams have an interesting mechanic. If they're white, you can just physically hit them open. If they're colored, you have to use that corresponding magic. Notice how I'm not talking about the story? That's because there's hardly one. Apparently Heartless have shown up, Ariel can fight them. You basically play through the events of the first movie. Except, instead of getting to land, Ariel wants to go to another world. Ursula basically promises that as long as she gets the goddamn trident, which, oh boy, whatever. Heartless destroyed Ariel's grotto. I guess? Actually, wait, no. Heartless destroyed Ariel's grotto in the manga. In the actual game itself, Triton comes along and smashes the crystal trident, which would have revealed the keyhole. Like 5 hours early. Jesus Christ, does this world take a long time. So cutting out a lot of filler, a lot of traveling and everything like that, we finally get to Ursula's fight. Now, you have to fight Ursula and beat her. Here's the funny little thing. You have to lock onto her cauldron and use magic on it. And then you're finally able to harm her. See, Ursula is weird in the fact that she's physically more durable as long as her cauldron is empowering her. It's a whole thing. Her second fight is when she's got the trident proper and has grown to a massive size. Sora straight up kills her. Just straight up kills her. So she's dead and you get Thundara. Thundara is actually pretty damn useful. Because it's bigger thunder. It's also where you'll get thunder for real if you haven't done Olympus Coliseum yet. Moving on, we get to Halloween Town. This world's actually a bit more interesting, has a bit more plot to it. Oh, yeah, by the way, King Triton apparently knows about other worlds. It's never explained how or why, but he does, so... Fun! Moving on to Halloween Town. So, Heartless are not hostile in this world, apparently. Search ghosts appear. Why do these 3 worlds all have search ghosts? Well, I guess for Monstro, they're kind of just Heartless that's been eating from the surrounding areas, so I suppose that makes sense. And for Atlantica, drowned souls become search ghosts who have a sort of aquatic theme to them. And then for Halloween Town, they're literal ghosts. So, okay, scratch that. They do actually make fundamental sense for all three of these worlds. Moving on. So, Jack Skellington apparently has magic in this world. So, instead of having like fire magic, he does, but that's not the main point. He now has gravity magic. Just wow, okay. It's cool, don't get me wrong, it's like darkness incarnate, but whatever. So apparently he can fight the Heartless as well. I think he's getting a boost from Sorup, who knows at this point. Anyway, search ghosts exist, but they're not harmful. In fact, they're pretty passive at this moment. There's not really an instance as to why. So we get through a few fetch quests, basically making a heart for the Heartless, which doesn't fundamentally make sense from what we know. You can create an artificial heart. Okay, cool. I think that'll come up in a few games later. Anyway, Lock, Shock, and Barrel steal the heart after it doesn't work. The Heartless have gone feral and starting to attack the townspeople. There are no townspeople in Halloween Town. What kind of there's no Warren Bossing say that shit? And then we have to go fight the three children. Sora literally beats the three children's asses. They are pretty powerful for what they are. Like, they are actual undead spirit zombie things that are pretty powerful, don't get me wrong. And then we have to fight Oogie Boogie and his roulette wheel. Yeah, notice how I'm cutting out a lot of like filler and what we're needing to do in between that? That's because there's not a whole lot to go off of. So, fun, I guess. Anyway, moving on. We do, however, get this part. The fact that Oogie Boogie cannot control the Heartless. Yeah, it's made abundantly clear that Boogie just doesn't know how to control the Heartless at this point. Once he eats the heart, he can. Apparently, this heart allows you to control the Heartless? That's weird. Apparently, it's a power up. Anyway, we split his themes open, killing him. And then he kind of oozes into his own manner, and we have to pop the pimples of darkness that have sprouted around his giant sack manor covered body. What the actual hell? This game gets weird. Go look it up. This is actually an interesting design, but also terrifying for a kid, because holy crap, that's weird. Anyway, after killing Oogie Boogie for the second time, and we do get a confirmed kill against this bastard, we obtain Gravity, either for the first time if we haven't finished the Phil's Cup, or for the second Gravera if we have. So that's fun. Anyway, Sora locks the keyhole which was under Oogie's manor, meaning, yes, all of the Heartless around this area makes sense. Fun, interesting fact, there was a red trinity that you had to get before the world was finished. Yeah, you had to get a red trinity before the final boss of this world, otherwise it was gone for good. You couldn't get 100% completion. It was changed in the final mix version to just appear down below. It's actually pretty damn interesting. There's also a secret boss called a Chimera. This thing is brutal as hell to fight, and I don't really like it. It's interesting, don't get me wrong, just not the most fun to fight. Then we move on to Neverland. Neverland with heavy ass quotes. It should actually be called Hook's Ship or London, because we're not in Neverland. We're just over an empty expanse of water on Hook's ship. Oh, hello, Riku. It's been like 2 whole ass worlds. Where have you been? The darkness answer to me now, Sora. You're stupid! No, just straight up, you're stupid! The darkness will eat you alive, Riku! Come back to the light side, we have cookies. Go join your little friends. Also, here's our comatose friend who I know you've been looking for but say you don't even care about now. What the hell are you? That is a trap door. Wah! Yeah, so Riku shows Sora the corpse of Kairi before plunging him down into the brink. So, Peter Pan was actually trapped down here? Like, Hook legitimately had Peter Pan trapped. There was no escape, there was no secret holes, there was no reason that Peter would have been able to get out. Tink managed to help them, but even then, Sora would have gotten out on his own. In fact, Tink seems to like Sora more than she likes Peter, so just bear with me. Cutting out a lot of filler scenes because holy crap. We finally get to see Kairi. Apparently, her corpse is able to move. You might be wondering why I'm calling it a corpse. We later learn she doesn't have a heart in that body. Meaning, this is supposed to be Kairi's nobody. It doesn't look any different than her, it just exists. In fact, it's not even supposed to exist because she's a being of pure light. It's explained later. Anyway, Wendy's up there. She's not one of the seven. Kairi is. Riku takes Kairi's body and screws off through a corridor of darkness into another world without issue. Well, he does get a little bit hurt, but Maleficent calls him out on it. Anyway, moving on, because Jesus, this world is not important. After that, we learn how to fly after walking the brink. Not walking the brink, walking the plank. That's the one. Learn how to fly. Oh yeah, we had to fight a weird, evil shadow version of Sora in the room previous. That's fun, I guess. After beating Hook the hell up, we finally get to we finally get to do a few other things. For one, we learn Arc Arcana. This is a pretty powerful slasher move, where we're able to just wail away on an enemy. I haven't mentioned some of the other moves that we get, but this is like the one that remains a stable through most of the Kingdom Hearts games. It even appears in like Birth by Sleep, so it is an interesting move. Also, we learn Glide after finishing off this world, so that's fun. Please note, there is a secret Heartless. Yeah, just straight up, there is a secret Heartless fight. Say hello to the Phantom. The Phantom is weird in the fact that, yeah, well, yes, it is still technically an enemy that you have to fight. It is entirely optional and one of the secret bosses. It gives you the last upgrade to your time magic. Reminder how I said that I don't remember exactly when you get the second time upgrade? You definitely get it before you're supposed to fight this thing, because otherwise it becomes nearly impossible. But, all of that aside, we do have some other facts that we learn. And these are pretty important. For one, apparently Riku's gone off the deep end in his weird cult that he's joined. Two, Kairi is just a corpse now. And three, Riku has powers over darkness. Like, impressive feats of powers over darkness. So, we'll deal with that when we get to it, but again, it is actually impressive how all of this fits together and how there's not really anything that contradicts itself. Kingdom Hearts 2, what are you doing here? Oh, Days, hello, where have you been? In development hell? Good to see you, bud. Yeah, in case my sarcasm hasn't made it clear, we do get a few contradictions to these facts, and just Riku's story, but whatever. I've grown tired of this guy. The fandom likes to glorify him. He's not that great. Moving on. We finally get to. Well, we have to go back to Traverse Town again to get the final gummy upgrade. I've ignored all the gummy routes and how the gummy ship works because it's just a headache and it's more gameplay than it is story wise. Anyway, so we finally get the final navigation gummy put in, and we go to Hollow Bastion. Okay, so first off, this is where the first scene where Riku is part of is shown. In the original game, we don't learn that Riku is on the side of the Heartless until Neverland. Yeah, it was actually supposed to be like a reveal. It was supposed to be something that you're shocked by. Because Sora's friend has turned to the darkness? What? Anyway, Sora loses the Keyblade in like 2 seconds after arriving on this world. Yeah, so Riku's heart has apparently strengthened enough that he can steal Sora's Keyblade. And please keep in mind, it is confirmed to be Sora's Keyblade now. It was up in the air whether Riku was supposed to have Kingdom Key or not. He wasn't, but whatever. Moving on. Moving on. Sora's left with Riku's wooden sword. This isn't Sora's wooden sword. That is still on Destiny Islands, or destroyed with Destiny Islands. This is Riku's wooden sword. Riku has been carrying around this particular weapon since the beginning. It is his last remains of home. Sora picks it up. He heals Beast from his wounds, because Beast is here suddenly, because we couldn't have a world about him. And he picks up his weapon, and he goes into Hollow Bastion proper. Deep breaths. Here we go. So, again, I'm not going to be loud or expressive about this one because this one's actually a bit more somber. This one actually takes a bit more story beats. Sora's lost the Keyblade. There is no fanfare. There's hardly any music. In fact, Hollow Bastion isn't a very loud or expressive world. It is eerily silent for a part. You have to fight Heartless after Heartless after Heartless. You better pray to God you've been doing all of the optional content you have available to you, because otherwise you're not able to go back for potions, you're not able to go back for protect chains, you're not able to go back for anything. Your wooden sword deals 0 damage to the Heartless. You're able to recover MP from fighting the Heartless, meaning that, yes, Sora with a wooden sword is now able to even scratch a Heartless, and his magic is powerful enough to defeat them. None of them are even Ga level spells yet. Hell, some of them aren't even Ra level spells. Sora is able to take them down. He, alongside Beast, traverse into the depths of Hollow Bastion, where they're finally able to unlock the doors. They enter through the front doors and catch up to Donald, Goofy, and Riku. Riku tries to kill Sora. There's no doubt about it. This is Riku in his right state of mind. He's able to make decisions for himself, and he launches a dark fireball at Sora, who has no means to defend himself and just stands there to take the blast. Beast has already left the room, chasing after a shadow who pretended to be Belle. Goofy saves Sora, and then Donald follows Goofy. One for all, and all that. Riku, not being a fan of this, goes, "How can you even fight? You don't even have a weapon." Sora, in defiance of that, says he does. His heart. It might be weak, it might not be the strongest, but as long as somebody remembers him, as long as his friends remember him, it's not going to die. It is going to persist even after death. Even if his heart is shattered into 100 different pieces, it's going to pull itself back together to protect the people he loves. He doesn't need a weapon like the Keyblade. He doesn't need a weapon like Riku does. He's not Riku. He's Sora. His friends are his power. And the Keyblade recognizes this, and it goes back to Sora. The music swells, and the boss battle starts. Sora and Riku fight to no end. Riku's armor gives him an immunity to magic, something that no other character has had. Even Hook is able to be hurt by lightning if he's staggered or anything like that, and he can reliably just not be affected by thunder by pointing his sword into the air. Sora beats Riku, and Riku runs away, his clothes turning back to normal. He questions how Sora was able to beat him. The mysterious hooded figure from the island shows up again and goes, "Because his heart, in that moment, was stronger than yours." Which should be impossible, is Riku's thought process, because he's always been stronger than Sora in every way possible. But Sora beat him. Sora's stronger now. Sora's been on this adventure, made connections, grew into a new person that Riku doesn't even recognize at this point. So Riku does what he thinks he has to. He gives himself up to the masked figure who possesses him. Riku thinks it's power boost. The masked figure takes over his whole entire body. Sora, Donald, and Goofy do a few puzzles, move around the castle, until they finally reach Maleficent. Maleficent has been this mysterious figure throughout the entire game, and it makes sense why she was mysterious, because Sora would have died before now. Maleficent is possibly one of, if not the strongest magic users in all of Kingdom Hearts. She's got a levitating platform. She's got real powerful magic. She can summon guardians, or not guardians, defenders. Look them up if you want to know what they look like. Just out the wazoo. She is powerful. She can create a meteorite to rain down against Sora. But she's no match for the Keyblade, so she summons a portal and goes to a new area. Sora, Donald, and Goofy follow her, where Riku? No, that's somebody else now. That's not Riku. We learn later his name is Ansem, the Seeker of Darkness. He plunges a Keyblade into Maleficent's heart, and holy crap, Maleficent is a giant dragon. While she has been shown to be able to use this form before, it is immensely more powerful. It's like she didn't even get her ass handed to her like 2 seconds ago. She's back up to full strength, and Sora, Donald, and Goofy are running on fumes at this point. They fight the dragon and win. There's nothing left but Maleficent's cloak and a dragon glow. This summons Mushu. Yes, that Mushu. It's also confirmed canon that Mushu is a summon that Sora has used. The summons are canon. That's just fun, but we move on. Sora has now had a body count of like 3 people. It has been a long adventure. They reached the Hole of the Princesses, the Hole of Hearts. The 6 princesses that have already been captured line the walls. Alice, Snow White, Cinderella, Belle, and the other 2. I forget. Uh, Snow White. It was Snow White, Belle, Jasmine, Alice. Um, Snow White, Belle, Jasmine, Alice, Aurora, and Cinderella. All six of them line the halls. Their hearts have been taken and crafted into this dark and distorted and just evil Keyblade. And Sora steps up and sees Kyrie's body. An arena wall is put around this small area. Sora rushes to Kyrie. Only Donald was with him. Goofy had been left out of the arena. He was a bit too slow. He got knocked back. Sora glares up the man who's possessing Riku. You're not Riku. I am Ansem, Seeker of Darkness. Donald goes to attack Ansem. He doesn't even use a spell or anything. He goes to clobber him on the head, hoping to get at least a little bit of damage in, but no, he just gets blasted out of the arena. Her heart has been missing. What? Can't you feel the pull? Ugh. Kari's inside me? Should I use the Keyblade? I shall release the princess's heart, and the keyhole will be complete. Forget it. There's no way you're taking Kari's heart. And round two starts. This fight is brutal. Ansem wastes no punches. He is faster than Riku has ever been. He leaves craters of and geysers of darkness wherever he lands his Keyblade. You better hope you have a really powerful physical Keyblade on, because otherwise he's immune to magic. He is a powerful, powerful enemy, even with the incomplete Keyblade of Hearts. He is dangerous to a degree that even other characters, stronger characters, would not be able to match up. But as everything goes quiet, Sora has won. Sora has won. This imposter is watching as Sora just views the Keyblade. He's hidden in the rafters. He just isn't doing anything. He's just hidden away. Donald and Goofy rush up to Sora, who is very clearly hurt. He's drained. He's just beaten the ass of his best friend who was possessed by another dude. And he looks at Kyrie. He looks at the keyhole that isn't complete. Donald and Goofy are like, hold on, we can't lock the keyhole, it's not complete. Sora looks at the Keyblade. A Keyblade that can unlock people's hearts. I wonder. Donald and Goofy realize something. Sora's gone quiet. They look over and Sora! He just grins at them before, well, plunging it into his heart. Donald rushes towards Sora, but no, he's just floating there now. The Keyblade's gone. The 6 hearts that had been in the Keyblade, they rush back to their rightful bodies, and as the princesses wake up, so does Kyrie. Her heart was also released. Sora fades into light as both Donald and Kyrie reach out for him, but there's no body. There's nothing left. His heart, his everything, his entire being is consumed by darkness. Sora sacrificed himself to save the entire world. He saved his friend. He saved the princesses. He recompleted the keyhole, something that can be locked, right? Like it can be locked. Like the king apparently has his own keyblade. That could work, right? Sora doesn't fully understand much, but he does understand he just saved his friend. He saved the other princesses of Heart. He might have saved the worlds. He destroyed this Keyblade that could potentially destroy everything. He saved the final keyhole. He gave himself up for this. He's falling into darkness. There's not a whole lot he can do, but his mind split between two realities. One where his memories, his mind is failing, but another where he's a peaceful shadow, where he doesn't want to fight. He just tries to go back to his friends to try and help them, to try and protect them. He doesn't attack, he doesn't do anything. He doesn't even retaliate when getting bonked on the head. He just looks up at Kairi. She's his friend. She should recognize him, right? Sora is fading into darkness. He's lost most of his mind by now. But he's also holding on. He's not given up yet. That's the reason why this Heartless isn't attacking. And Kairi can recognize it. This is Sora. This is her friend. She hugs the shadow as an entire horde of shadows tries to attack her. And in a flash of light, Sora is brought back from the brink of darkness. He clasps Kingdom Key and hugs Kairi back because there's no way in hell anyone's harming Kairi again. He's back. He is back. They have to run, though. This entire world is being overrun by darkness. It is powerful. The keyhole is being recomplete, and the princesses aren't needed anymore. So they escape to Traverse Town. Kairi is hidden in the underground waterways and hands Sora a charm. It's the Wayfinder. It's my lucky charm. Be sure to bring it back to me, okay? Sora grins, nods, and smiles. Of course. This is Oathkeeper. Oathkeeper is one of the most beautiful Keyblades in all of Kingdom Hearts. It is light incarnate. It is one half of Sora's bond with his friends. They go back to, after collecting a gummy, they go back to Hollow Bastion. Oathkeeper in hand, they reach the final hole. Sora spots a chest, but it's coated in a weird substance. It's his crown necklace, but he's still wearing it. This is, potentially, as a theory, his crown necklace that got encased in darkness when he released the darkness from his heart. That's the reason why it's in the same room as this. This keychain is Oblivion, another beautifully crafted keyblade. As everything happens, Sora enters the keyhole. According to the 6 princesses that were left here, they've been holding back a certain darkness. Sora obtained Curaga from talking to Aerith a few times, and he's ready for the final fight. What he believes is the final fight. He beats up this behemoth whose only weak point is a single horn. On the middle of its head, it can summon the thunder of darkness from the sky. It is powerful, it is massive. Sora needs to use all of his skills, all of his abilities, everything to even damage this thing. It goes down, and Sora is able to feel the keyhole. They exit. There's one location left. Some things add in a final mix, and something pretty funny from the comics to manga to sort of lighten up the mood, because this world is heavy. Like, heavy in details, heavy in themes, heavy in everything. In the manga, Kai recognizes Sora because of the shape of his cows, which is funny. And in the final mix version, a new fight is added. Xemnas, except he is known as the mysterious figure here. I'll talk about Xemnas here. Just be known that Sora is able to hold his own against this mysterious figure with laser light swords. You know, lightsaber. And he's able to hold his own. This guy is canonically stronger than Ansem will ever be in these final fights. So that's fun. Also, it's not post-game, because this happens before the end of the world. Moving on, we have got the entirety of Olympus Coliseum to get through, so let's speedrun this shit. Sora signs up for the prelims, except that he can't, so he goes through training with Phil, so he gains the Thunder element. This is either the first, second, or third, no, definitely not third, but the second element that you could possibly get for the Thunder, meaning this is either Thunder or Thundera. There's no unique dialogue, this is Thundera, Phil just gives Sora a cheat sheet on how to use Thunder Magic. Moving through that, after exiting, Hades gives Sora a prelim ticket because, hey, he loves the chaos, he loves a good fight. So Sora goes back in and goes through the prelims. After all of the prelims, Sora has to fight Cloud, who's set up to basically the merc with no mouth to fight against Hercules and kill him. Except, Cloud now has to fight Sora because he's a last minute entry, and Hades is doing a 2-for-1 deal because if he takes out the Keyblade wielder, he takes out the opportunities to basically stop any of Maleficent's plans. Except Cloud gets his ass beaten, and Cerberus has to come in to try and fight Sora. Cerberus is, however, weakened down because Hercules comes in to save everybody's asses. Except Herc can't beat Cerberus because Cerberus is Cerberus, and Sora has to come in and finish off the job. While it is confirmed Herc sort of depowers Cerberus, it is also later shown that Sora is able to beat a fully powered Cerberus during the, I think it's Hades Cup. Yes, Hades Cup is the first boss fight in Hades Cup. Moving on from that, as you progress through the story, more and more cups come through. During the Phil Cup, you're able to obtain the Gravity Spell. The second one, Pegasus Cup, I forget what it is, but you beat Leon and Yuffie, there isn't much of a story here. But there is one for the Hercules Cup, where after you beat Hercules, you are able to use the Yellow Trinity. This is where Donald, Goofy, and Sora all pushed on the same object. I forgot about Trinity marks. They're basically just superpowers. They're basically the bomb between the three being able to do shit. After their first fight, they're able to use Blue Trinity, which is a jump. The second one is the Red Trinity, where they're able to barge into a certain object. The third is Green, where they're able to ladder up to certain things. The fourth is supposed to be the Yellow Trinity, but you can get the white one first, which is basically Trinity limits, where they're putting all of their swords together and reveal a hidden object. Got all of that? Good. So Sora has to fight through all of that, and he canonically fights Hercules solo no matter what. Yes, you fight against Hercules solo. Hercules is also weak to barrels, but aside from the memes aside, it is actually sort of hinted at the fact that Sora is throwing with enough force to stagger a god. So that's fun. So, and Hercules even mentions he wasn't even holding back. So they're dubbed junior heroes. It gets on Donald's nerves, but it is honestly kind of fitting, to be honest. They are just in their first game. Hades Cup, you have to fight against Hades. You have to fight against a few other bosses as well, and there's like a whole entire gauntlet of 50 different rounds. That means there is at least, for every 10 rounds, there's one boss, so that means, due to the fact it's about, I think it's actually 60, there's about 6 bosses throughout the entirety of this, plus like 1 or 2 more that take up their own slot, not on one of the even or odd numbers. With the final boss being the Rock Titan, you have to beat a fake Rock Titan. And this thing is about the same power as the actual Rock Titan, so that's neat. Also, Hades, if you can build this thing, why don't you just create like 5 of them and take over Olympus? Anyway, moving on. We finally have the 2 secret fights. One is the fake Ice Titan, which is incredibly powerful. You're not even able to use Wind Magic, otherwise it'll just overpower that. And once you finally beat it, you got a pretty cool Keyblade. Also, you obtain like a number of uh, magic upgrades through the Hades Cup, so that's just fun, as well as a few Keyblades. Moving on. Again, we finally have to fight Sephiroth in the Platinum match. Sora canonically wins this fight. Sora from Kingdom Hearts 1 is able to beat Sephiroth, who is functionally immortal. So that's fun. Anyway, Sephiroth is known to match up to more around like Kingdom Hearts 3 Xehanort before the Keyblade. If that doesn't make sense to you, that's because this guy is functionally immortal, has been fighting against everything he can to try and kill Cloud. Sora's able to beat both Sephiroth and Cloud in one-on-one fights. We got all of that? Good, because I am not going over all of that again. Again, Olympus Coliseum is the one world without too much of a story. So that's the reason why I just kind of speed ran all of that. Moving on to the end of the world. This is where every single destroyed world ends up. This is directly leading into the realm of darkness. Hell, you're in the realm of darkness for most of this adventure. All of the Heartless here are the strongest they have ever been and ever will be. Sora, Donald, and Goofy have to fight Chernabog. They have to fight the literal devil. After beating Chernabog's ass, they obtain Super Glide, which is basically just Glide but fast. It later gets incorporated into just normal Glide, so take of that what you will. That being said, however, we also have a couple of other notable locations. Specifically, it's not really given a name, but it is linking towards certain worlds. These portals are how Heartless keep on getting into these worlds. Well, yes, the locations aren't the real ones. There are ways that you just aren't able to come and go from that place. It is interesting to note that these are how the Heartless get around here. Also, another interesting note, if you haven't completed one of these worlds, the light won't be green, it will be purple. You still go through them, but eh. And here's a save point in the 100 Acre Wood one, because you're going to need it. You have to go through another little gauntlet to even reach the final save point and the final door of the game. Once you reach here, you have to fight through a few waves, you have to fight a behemoth again, and then you're finally at the final rest. It is even called the final rest. Or final rest, there's no the in it. And here's where I'm going to explain the two distinct voices that come from the mysterious voice. The first one is also the one that sounds here. You are the one that will open the door. Mickey, on the other hand, is a lot more personalized towards Riku. And it makes sense, he can only talk to Riku because both of them are in similar places. Again, I don't like the fact that apparently Mickey's supposed to be the mysterious voice from the start, but whatever, I guess. That being said, once Sora goes through here, we are in the realm of darkness proper. This is shown in 0.2, a fragmentary passage, because of the fact that this is Destiny Islands. This is Sora's home. We're back. But not really. See, one of the things that is different is that we're not allowed on the other side, but also, the second we reach the secret place, Ansem shows up, except he doesn't look like Riku anymore. He looks different. He has a guardian now. On Guardian! We have to fight him, and he's a lot tougher than before. And he still uses similar attacks, but they're also different enough. Beat him once together, and then we have to go into an arena. Darkseid's back, and this one is tougher than before, but same verse, second verse, same as the first with this guy. No new attacks, but he is significantly stronger, hits a bit harder, yada yada. Again, these are world enders. These are the most powerful pure blood Heartless, aside from like two. other Pureblood Heartless. And both of those Pureblood Heartless appear in Kingdom Hearts 3, ironically enough. After fighting this guy, we fight Ansem again, but this time alone. Afterwards, we're transported to a dark void, where we have to fight the World of Chaos. We unlock Flight again because we're going to need it. The World of Chaos is a giant flesh boat. And I mean a giant flesh boat. This thing is about the size of a world, with portals leading to new areas, different sections you have to beat the crap out of. It is massive, it is powerful, it is immense. And then we get to see Ansem at his weakest. Kingdom Hearts, fill me with the power of darkness. You're wrong. I know without a doubt. Kingdom Hearts is light! Ansem gets turned to nothing as Kingdom Hearts shines with a radiant light. It is brighter than anything we've seen before, except one time. Twice, in fact. When Sora first obtained the Keyblade, and when Sora obtained it again. Sora called to Kingdom Hearts' true nature, to its true self, and it answered the call. Sora tries to struggle and push it closed. Then Riku appears. Hold on. Where the hell have you been? In the realm of darkness around the doors? And you didn't think to come out and help us fight, or look, man, what do you want from me? I'm an egotistical emo boy. Why do people like you again? Mickey shows up, shirtless for some odd reason, and he is holding a Kingdom Key of Darkness. This weapon it's supposed to be powerful, but it is really, really weak. This thing can be destroyed by a couple of shadows later on. So, no, we are not considering this to be a true Keyblade. This is a key chain. Sora's Kingdom Key is his true Keyblade. Sora raises the Kingdom Key to the sky, and Kingdom Hearts seals itself shut, locking both Mickey and Riku in it until they find their way out, because there's gotta be a back door to this place, because the Heartless keep on coming. Sora just rushes away down the road because he senses Kairi. Except she's not going back to Hollow Bastion. She's being recompleted on Destiny Islands. I'll come back for you. I know you will. And the credits start to roll after a beautiful end credits. Well, an ending scene. Hikari Uto's song Simple and Clean, the true version, not the remix, starts to play softly as everything fades away. Credits roll. We get to see little bits of where are they now? And it is beautiful. It is a soft and loving and kind adventure's ending. Sora's won. He might have lost a friend, but one of his others is safe. He's not going to rest until he rescues the other. Sora starts off on the adventure again because they know there's a way out of that place, and, well, this giant, expansive, rolling hills, and Pluto's got a letter from the king in his mouth. He's out, which means Riku is too. An adventure is starting. Adventure is starting? Memories. Nostalgia. Loss. Amnesia. Friends that have been forgotten. Things aren't going to be just in the middle of the day. This isn't going to be from dusk till dawn. or dawn till dusk. This isn't going to be an easy adventure for Sora, because a storm's on the horizon yet again. But we'll learn more about that in Chain of Memories. Till then, I have been the Phantom. As I said, I would get into some theories for this game, but I feel like that deserves its own video. This has just been a recap of Kingdom Hearts, the original version. I've cut some things out. I didn't mention all the gameplay stuff, and Magic's got its own video that I'm just finishing up. So be sure to stick around for that. Until next time. Well, Kingdom Hearts is light. And Sora's got the goddamn keys to the kingdom. See ya.